before that can happen, we need Scotland to win. Well, after that, we need Scotland to go to Twickenham and win, because that's the next game. We need Scotland to go to England and win.
Yeah, it's curious.
Which, even as before I can get through that sentence, I just know that doesn't
I also
happen.
think they're very much a confidence team.
They are.
Like that. Yeah. That was very what they did against England last year in Murrayfield. That got them to hold the tournament was very evidence based for them.
Yeah.
You know, they had it was a lot of wins and buildings in the making. That performance, and they peaked almost on that day, and it was brilliant for them. They got the Calcutta Cup, but this is a very different ask for them to show up and just be awesome. And it's also a very curious.
It's a different Scotland that are coming to the party to face them. Like it's
Stewie Hogg.
It's a team that's completely lost the identity they had with success. They're trying to adopt some of Edinburgh's success in their identity as their own. I think
they're succeeding.
They're succeeding in some of that, but
in the sense that
what they found in terms of their attack is really nothing other than a disjointed mess, which Finn's pulling the strings but not looking
their whole
in sync with any of it.
Attack isn't even the word; it's backline is the word in attack and in defence. That's where they're not fronting up. Actually, up front, I think you can talk. I think you could say every week. There's been some critique of the Scottish pack, but it's way off. Every week they fronted up. They fronted up against Wales and conceded some sloppy, in particular that Jay Davis try. I know it came after many phases, but out the back is where they were soft. And the Edinburgh pack now is starting the game almost in full, with the exception of Sam Skinner. Hamish Watson's back. The pack has been like it matched Ireland, it matched Wales, it beat up Italy. And it matched the French in that game, but they just couldn't get anything going on offence. And I suspect you might see a similar enough picture. I think England they'll break them up, but I think they'll struggle to break them
They'll
up.
They'll look to bludgeon them there anyway, and maybe with a few offloads they may find some inroads anyway. But I think
they'll find Hamish Watson's in their way. I actually think that's a losing picture for them, because I think Hamish Watson, as well as being a barnstormer and making headlines for carries, is an actual poachman.
He's a ball hound. He is a jackal.
That's not the picture for England. It's Manu Tuilagi is the man.
He's not, but very often England, it's their default setting. So it's like against the Scots at home, we go and run them over,
kicking the ball and moving it to the middle of the park. That's been the key for them this year.
And even when they've cut Scotland to ribbons, it's been in the centres as well, and like those centres did like off the back of the Italy shellacking that was always on the cards as well. Like they'll be in good pomp, they'll be back in Twickenham for another tri-fest and going into World Cup with confidence. And if the Irish can do them a favour, they'll be thinking hopefully the tournament as well, and all chariots rolling into town and all that. That's got to be the English picture. Like you're just and I think you are right in saying they would get more purchase out of this Scotland team by moving it there sooner rather than trying to bludgeon them first, because Scotland are going to be pretty harrying combative.
Well, that's a potential losing picture for them, in the sense that if Scotland do match them up front, which I think is more likely than them stopping them through the middle through the centres, if they do match them up front, if they do get a few jackals, all of a sudden they play themselves into the game. They feel a bit more confident. They get a penalty. Maybe they can get up the pitch and get their hands on the ball.
Maybe Finn makes a play. Maybe it's a 7-point play.
And that's the key. So to not play them into the game would be to target them where they're weakest, which isn't, curiously enough, for this team up front. Only
that's true.
3 Glasgow players in the whole team. It's the smallest ever, I think, under Gregor Townsend.
That's crazy, But then it's warranted based off some form, and then injuries
are key as well.
Injuries have been key this whole tournament. It's been the only talking point for them all.
Sean Maitland covering the backfield is another thing.
Crazy.
Crazy. But who else? Who's played 15 who you could pick there, outside of Kinghorn and Hogg, who are injured?
Rory Jackson.
No, there's a terrible
Bring
idea.
him to Twickenham.
I thought they were actually going to go with Adam Hastings, after
That's
last
actually
week.
not a terrible call at all, is put Adam Hastings in there so that Finn has someone who's crazy and Glaswegian to bounce off.
Worked last week.
Yeah.
Finn needed a bit of friendly hands, a bit of baller hands to pass to last
and Maitland has been showing some poor hands instead, let alone a distribution game that he's now going to be thrust upon him, which has never been part of his job. They surely
won't make him do that. Well, I guess Sam Johnson. It'll be Grigg
on distribution.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't see a good picture for Scotland. No, this whole tournament has been
pretty disastrous for them. It's a terrible time to get all those injuries. They don't have much luck, but they don't have much depth either, and much confidence. And
well, that's what's been sapped throughout this whole. Like even going into this tournament, even with the injuries, it was more
the
of an
South Africa
optimistic
defeat in November was
it was a bit of
sore one as well,
taken right out of the sails at home. And the Murrayfield factor is now not really a factor because they've lost twice there this year.
And to South Africa last year.
Yeah, so it's disappointing trend for Scottish rugby. Actually, it's just been honest, and this would be like if they can rally and put in a one-day performance similar to what they displayed last year against England. But it's not in Murrayfield, and it's not that same team.
They were very flowy and very confidence based, and that's the kind of guy Finn is. Like when Finn joined Racing, when Finn joins a new team, actually you see some disjointed pictures the first few weeks, and guys can be critical of him.
Yeah,
and you've seen that with Racing. But when
after a few months, adjusting to how he shapes the throw ball,
exactly. Then you start to see the magic happen, and that's what you're starting to see with Racing.
Yeah,
but. He's never settled into this Scotland team. He's running this team, and he doesn't seem to know how it works.
Yeah,
and they don't seem to know how he works. And it's all in attack. There's just he's their brightest spark because he's the best player in it.
Yeah,
but he can't link up with anyone and put anyone in any kind of space. I'd like to see Darcy Graham get in off his wing and give Finn something to work
Darcy
with.
Graham has looked positive, and even the other day when he came in, he looked positive. And he has been their form winger really all season, and compared to even Seymour as well, who had been shown.
I don't dislike Seymour in there either because he's a smart guy.
No, he is. Yeah, no, I rate him as an experienced head. But it's like the form guy has been Darcy Graham, and he hasn't been injured, and they haven't been throwing him. So that's just a questionable call, I would say. But now he is in. Hopefully, you can see him get his hands on the ball. But like last week's performance wasn't really all that encouraging for them.
No, and the suspicion would be that they just they're not going to be able to front up defensively against the English attack, and that's going to be all she wrote.
Hopefully Hamish Watson makes somewhat of a difference too.
He'll make a huge difference. That's the point. That's the picture. Their best. They're like with Edinburgh. Their best and most optimistic points are up front. And that's the picture for them is to see Hamish Watson attacking them. Actually, Josh Strauss off the bench is a good option.
Yeah,
and I don't hate the call to drop him either. He's been good. But
he's been gassing. Is one thing that he puts in a lot of work, and then he's not as effective in the second half, and he's going down then a bit more often, feeling the heat of the test arena, which he was
just about back, I think, from injury as well.
He's also he's got a game that's very physical. When he's at his best, he is being a bit barnstorming and physical, but there's a limit to how long you can get that. So maybe off the bench is a better option.
And Magnus Brandbury's been great.
He's
Gary Graham, a very good head to have in there, and it's just it's. Is it Gary Graham? It might not be Gary Graham, actually. I think
it's Hamish Watson and
Sam Skinner.
Sam Skinner.
Sorry. Sam Skinner, Exeter man.
That's right.
And another great player. And great to see Ben Toulis back in there, the band back together from an Edinburgh perspective. So all physical up front. I actually don't think they'll go backwards. Well, maybe they'll go backwards in the scrum. That's the point, is that England are elite.
Yeah.
It's a good test for their pack.
And England are big even by elite standards as well. In the top 8, England are a big side physically. So that's another challenge. It'll challenge some of their technique in that physical exchange.
And certainly, if Scotland do start to lose those battles, it'll be a very long day for them.
Exactly.
But I suspect they will actually step up and make some plays of their own.
I think it could be tight enough and nip and tuck for the first half or the first half of the first half. But I think England will, there'll be a Johnny May try in there where there won't be a Darcy Graham try that you'd like.
No. I wanted a Darcy Graham try.
Maybe
there will be.
I wouldn't mind. It might come at 80 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like
one Englander singing their Chariots.
Yeah,
Scotland will break through and show some of their class.
Recurring trend of hubristic fans chanting champion songs after full time, being punished by an immediate score the other way. It's nice to see.
It's possible. It's conceivable that Scotland will be that England might be a little flat if Wales do get the win against Ireland as well.
That's conceivable, all right. That's because they will be in their head of winning it. If Ireland are to do it over in Cardiff, that's probably bad news for Scotland. Although, Ireland, we'll be looking so hopefully across at Scotland, thinking they can do it for us. We're so up for it, and that'll be where we get to join in Scott's pain as England run in all the tries. Whereas, I wouldn't wouldn't put it past them if Wales have already put it away. That similar to what we saw last year, where they were so out of it that they ended up contriving to lose so many. England, this is contriving to lose so many games that they ended up sitting in 5th by the end. By nearly just absent-mindedly giving up on the tournament and giving up on trying to solve some of their issues before the tournament was out. It seemed by the end it was just picking the same team to go out, and go through the slump.
What do you think of Joe Cocknessigan not getting a go this week?
I question it, to be honest.
Jack Nolan there instead for the Scotland game.
Yeah, there's definitely been some rotation like that. It's different tools for different jobs. They definitely saw Italy and thought big men. Yeah, and like he is only, what is he, 21? I think he's 21. So yeah, he's obviously in the plans. He's probably a bit of a bolter for the World Cup. Noel is one who's probably on the plane as well.
I would say so.
There's.
He really likes Noel because he
really
uses him as his ninth forward, as he says.
That's it. He's a kind of a coach's dream from out there. He's similar to what I think he has all the attributes that Joe Schmidt likes in a Fergus McFadden, or certainly used to like in a Fergus McFadden. Now does like in Earls as well. Yeah. Similar kind of industrious, combative little terrier of a winger who's
and with probably a bit more strength and
a little bit more toughness at least. Strength is. And like neither one thing the other, even power. It's like their technique is on point and they're just kind of fearless and just go in there and harry and harass and like that's always a positive picture.
Against Scotland, I would have thought that the big man might have been the way to go.
Maybe so. Big offloading man with crazy basketball hands going on. It was actually, he had a great performance last week.
He did indeed.
That's what some way to introduce yourselves in Six Nations was with a bit of ball handling techers.
Absolutely.
And the post match interview on BBC kept pressing the point about the ball in two hands. The interviewer said it twice, like, would you not think of holding the ball in two hands? And it's like the man, like he was going, nah, it's easier.
The interviewer asked him that.
Yeah, it was. I thought it rather silly and missing the point.
I've always thought it was like, no, listen, it's good advice to give to a kid.
It's good advice to give to an English guy.
Loads of pundits die on that hill, the ball in two hands hill, when it's context dependent, and a lot of the time damage is done by Leone Nakarawas of the world with the ball in one hand.
Indeed,
you got to factor in that giant Fijian
the giant hand is such a factor. Like my hand is a wee Caucasian hand. I could hold the ball in one hand, but it would be a tenuous grip I'd have, and so if I'm whirling it
to your forearm
and it's jarred, and it's out. Whereas if I increase the scale of my hand to my body by a full nearly half for some reason, it just seems to be, and like now suddenly I can maul the ball and get through contacts and get my hands free and twist it either way, and he is similarly built to do that.
Like if you get it right, it's a weapon.
Because the other thing is, like, he can keep it away from contact. He displayed good nous in terms of not going for ones that weren't on and placing the ball well, which you can use it to do so as well. So it's like a rugby player's brain still needs to be fitted, and it's not all the be all and end all, just having giant hands, but it certainly helps. And if you have it, don't discourage it. Like, don't coach it out of it.
Really, that interview. If a young Irish talent was being interviewed like that by the press, I'd be be ranting on this podcast for damn near 30 minutes. I dare say. Don't do that to the young man.
No, let him carry on and create things on the pitch, which is what he was doing. I think no, it's a question of what, like, it's a decision that's based on just different tools for different jobs. They're probably targeting slightly different areas this time. Probably giving him a rest, giving Noel a run as well. There's minutes at stake in this side of the World Cup, but I don't think that's where the winning or losing of the game is going to be. To be honest, I think that the wingers out that side are just going to be there to kind of do their job, and I think the damage will be done inside it.
The winning of the game will be when Nick Grigg picks up Manu Tuilagi, throws him over his own line.
Could be.
Could it be?
If
I'd love to see them step up.
If Grigg is to step up enough that, like, his first collision with if Tuilagi goes in slightly a bit clumsily maybe, and Grigg just bullishly drives him backwards.
Or Sam Johnson can tackle.
Like, get low and drive them. Then England might question a bit of it, but be stifled, and you hear murmurs around Twickenham. It's such a beautiful picture that I paint that it only seems fanciful. I would sooner see Grigg, who is an industrious little tackler, just being out and matched and shunted
The
off.
other factor that you mentioned is the Farrell factor as well, that he's always picking. There's always very good shapes to what England do, and he's always orchestrating it.
They're putting those big men into channels where there's deception either side of them, and you can't fully commit, even though you really do have to fully commit to put them down.
Farrell has a great knack of picking the perfect pass in that scenario as well. Not to mention, like, the perfect pass could be Tuilagi, the dummy man, out the back to Henry Slade. Darcy Graham shoots up, Slade has kicked it in behind, Maitland's at sea. Maitland tries to play the ball, falls over, ball bounces up, Noel picks it up, runs in for a try. Like, that's a much more realistic picture
than the Grigg smashing Tuilagi
picture
back 10 metres, or a big Courtney Laws tackle on Tuilagi.
You got to feel, is Courtney Laws there?
No, George Cruz and Launchbury, and I think is Laws on the
probably
bench.
On the bench.
I don't know the answer to that. I didn't look at the bench. But
Nathan Hughes coming wrong. I thought I heard that.
Yeah, actually, that was the same last week. There has been the loss has been out. I'm really hopeful for Scotland. I'm hopeful, but I just doubt it. I doubt it so much. I really just think England are too much for them. Scotland especially. I've seen nothing from them to suggest that they can go to Twickenham and win.
No, I've been in a positive place with Scotland for a while,
for years.
But this team now, it's all come quite negative on them. Hugh Jones lost his form, but they had to keep him in there because he was the only guy making a play.
Spark,
They have issues at the centre in offence.
They definitely do. In offence and defence.
Hastings could be I was very sceptical of him in Glasgow colours, but he stepped up this Six Nations, and he could be a potential solution as some other distributor to throw in there. And
in the centres.
Well, somewhere.
See, that doesn't solve the soft
No,
issue.
it doesn't.
They're always facing physical disadvantages just because it seems like the players they have in those centre roles are a bit small.
I feel like
comparatively, but also they're not they're not playing.
Yeah. But their best picture would be to maintain what they've got going in the pack right now and get their offence back to where it was.
Yeah.
Which would involve some personnel improvements like Stuart Hogg back, obviously. But even when Hugh Jones was there, it wasn't working for them.
Yeah.
And they may need to rethink some things in there. And maybe Hastings would be a guy, or maybe Hastings off the bench would be an option. But I
don't know. I think that might be doubling down on craziness. I think someone like Dunbar back would help a bit, actually.
No, for sure, but to balance it out.
Yeah, but it's they need to plug some like obviously you're right in saying they need to keep that attacking dimension.
But they don't have it right now. They actually need to find it again.
Don't. Yeah, no, this is and they're not going to without those personnel.
No, I don't think so either.
No, I think that a key to that is you have your Finn Russell, you have your Hugh Jones, and you have your Stewie Hogg. And those three little acting as a fulcrum, that's such a dynamic kind of attacking.
And Seymour in there as well because he's got good.
They just have great wingers as well.
But Seymour and Hogg in particular have
true. They link up really well. Yeah. But I feel like the wingers coming in or out aren't going to change the way you play. What is though is the loss of either Stewie Hogg or Hugh Jones or
although
both.
It wasn't working with Hugh Jones. Is my point.
No,
this year the man is out of form. They're leaning on who he was, but he isn't that right now, and they may need to find that again.
Yeah.
But that's my point, is that I'm actually less optimistic about where Scotland are than where France are.
Do you reckon?
There's a lot of negativity surrounding France, but actually the pieces are there for Brunel. If he's I don't know which direction he'll go, but it seems like even the thought patterns, I'll fix this thing in the back row. Maybe I need Camille back, or I think I need to change things up and have Entomac in there. I think I need to go into all the thought patterns. If you could put the right ones together and get rid of the bad ones,
then there's a great team.
There's actually potential for some World Cup success and maybe some shocks.
Yeah.
But
whereas with Scotland, you feel like
I just don't see how they can put it together.
Calibre wise, they're a little bit below, and they have actually lost the one thing setting them apart, which was the pace and accuracy of their attacking play and the flair and creativity.
They've got
of
a
it.
very decent top level pack that is just a little bit worse than the Irish, Welsh, English, South African.
Well, what it is very solid. You're saying, we were saying they can match teams. They're not as game breaking as far as playmaking.
He is a superstar.
He is. And he showed a bit of that. But across that board, they're guys who are workhorses who do the jobs and make plays. You're not that phenomenal English pack where they do all that stuff, and also there's some crazy ball carriers and ball handlers on offloaders in there. Besides some really good technical
Mata in there doing
exactly
things.
Edinburgh match packs, and then are all ready for Edinburgh to be the catalyst, or for Mata to be the catalyst to kind of create something, a spark and go forward, and a backline that are similarly functional. And this Scotland team is resembling that Edinburgh team more and more, not just because of selection, but also the backline is just more functional, but not even. It's functional in mindset, but it's not even proving that, because in the Six Nations you can't really get by on just that.
No.
And you need to produce these big
and even
moments.
Finn is a top class attacking 10. He thinks about the game a lot, but he if you're a great fullback, you can make things happen on your own, but as a great 10, it's really all about putting other people into space in clever ways, and there's just not a whole lot to work with, to be honest.
They're not conjoined. There's no actual link. It doesn't look like a flowy backline at all. It looks like a disjointed mess of players that are actually better individually than the collective. They're all solid players. I don't even in club colours. I don't not rate any of those players, and I think there is potentially a team to be made out of them. but I just don't think that they know what it is. I don't think the players, once they're going through, even in training, I don't know if Finn knows what they're trying to do. I don't know if Gregor knows what he's meant to do with all this. There's vague aspirations to keep the Scotland of old, keep your mantra of being the quickest team, but then looking at your parts going,
well, I think
be that.
This week you might see, maybe you'll see them be physical and maybe be a little more conservative. Maybe you'll see them kick the ball a bit, maybe in over the head of Noel, and try and get some territory. Maybe try and attack the line out. Maybe find some vulnerabilities there. Maybe.
Hopefully.
I'm
just fishing though.
No, it's exactly it. But like that's my point, is that with the 3 Glaswegians, there you might see Gregor move away from this. This mould of Scotland that he created over the last few years. But then when Hogg comes back, he's going to want to
just revert to type and go back. Or
the idea is he's trying to put it all together.
Yeah.
But
they're nowhere near that now.
And they're not actually, like, when you talk about Scotland haven't got it together, France haven't got it together, and if both of them put their best teams together, you'd actually say that France is the more dangerous team to come up against.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
it's just unfortunate. I really like Scotland, but I think they'll be done. Like England too. England, last year we were talking about back row and centre weaknesses, and now they're probably their two of their biggest strengths. Curry at 7 is a demon,
and they're Underhill to come back. So it's depth now.
The centres are great. They found a choice little centre combination. Loads of options and loads of versatility with what you can do with it. One of the great out halves in the world right now.
Who's playing at out half. They're not getting needlessly lateral by having him 2 passes deep. Great, like whoever they pick, great wingers. One especially in Johnny May. Yeah. And maybe something to do with that fullback jersey, I still think. But he looked like a world beater against Italy last week, but that was against Italy.
Many's a man has looked like a world beater against Italy.
No, it's true. But no, in general, they look a lot more balanced. They look a lot more like an English team, which is such an intangible to sight, but it's like for too long.
Physical, but they're versatile. Yeah. And they have a smart man at 10, which is key for England, because they can be
smart man
sometimes.
at 10, quick man at 9. Yeah. Here we go. Let's play rugby. Yeah.
So I think I'm backing them to get it done in Twickenham and perhaps in some style too.
Yeah, I kind of think so. Probably bonus points. And are they going to be champs? We were saying Wales.
I think Wales will have it done before kick-off.
And should it be the case that it comes down to all that, should Ireland do the job for them, I think they will be clinically seeing Scotland off. I think no fears of a Scotland upset there in that scenario. The only chance I see Scotland of having that upset come to fruition is if Wales have already secured the championship, and England are in a little bit of a what are we playing for mood. Whereas if they're playing for the championship,
even so, it's a very strange place to be for England, isn't it? Like, because they're going to be in their pre-match prep long before full time. The chances are Eddie won't want them watching a minute of that game. So it's a weird place to be. You're just going to get the word. It's on or it's not on. Or does Eddie have license to lie to them? He probably doesn't, because he won't get away with it.
I wouldn't at all.
Yeah. Because they'd find out.
Elliot Daly will be like, "Oh no way, Wasps just tweeted." Or whatever. They'll find out some way by hook or by crook.
Exactly.
They'll know.
It's an information age, and so they'll know that they either have it or don't. But even if they don't, I'd say you're so much in that pre-match.
This is what I was actually going to conclude that point by saying, like, even though I see it only in that one scenario being possible, I still think it unlikely.
Because like 2 minutes into a game of rugby, it just kicks in. You're in a game of rugby. Nothing else matters.
You get one hit, you carry into contact once, and get smashed, and then you're like, all right, I'm playing
a game of rugby. Regardless of what else.
It's going to be very real. It's a stacked Saturday card. It's the final day of the Six Nations.
A lot of fun.
Listen, we've had a great time covering it. Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please like and subscribe down below, and leave a comment as well, because we enjoy the chat and conversation. Thank you.